Hello, welcome to Trapunto. My name is Jamie. In this video, I will be sharing with you my needs and nice to haves for Sashiko. Let's get into it. When it comes to the notions and tools that I use for Sashiko, this is really all you need. That's what I like about Sashiko. I find it very travel friendly. I can pack it away in a small bag. The only thing you might run into an issue with at the airport is the needles, and we'll get into that when I get to the needles. So first thing for Sashiko you need is fabric. What I have here is Sashiko linen. So it's a cotton and linen blend that is dyed navy. Sashiko was done traditionally on indigo dyed fabric with white thread. So this is the Sashiko fabric that you can buy. I would say you could also do Sashiko on pretty much anything you want. The whole thing with Sashiko is it started out of mending clothing. So you can do it on denim, pretty much any cotton. The only fabric I would stay away from when you're doing Sashiko would be batik, and that's because batiks are very tightly woven just with the nature of how they're made. You will also need marking pens. So I have 3 here. The white marking pen from Clover is my favorite. The reason why it is my favorite is it is wax-based, so it will wash away from your fabric once your project is finished, and it is not a heat erase pen like I've talked about before in my tools and notions video to kind of be really careful with. The next one is the Mark Be Gone. This I mentioned in my video before. This pen is good if you're working on lighter fabrics, as of course it won't show on dark. And another option is just a marking pencil. This is the 3-in-1 from Soline. So I have pink, white, and black lead in here. So depending on what I'm doing and what color fabric I'm working on, this pencil goes a long way to mark all of them. Next, I like to have my LDH snips. These are a little heavier duty than your standard embroidery scissors. I prefer it just because they're kind of made for working with thicker thread, I guess. And also, if for whatever reason I do need to snip a bit of fabric or something, I can do that with this. So let's talk about thread. Again, the nice thing about Sashiko is it's pretty versatile for what thread you can use. I will have another video doing a deeper dive on thread, but these are 3 that I have. So you might see these. This is a skein from Olympus. It's probably the most common brand that is out there. This is a little cone from Cosmo, and they have changed their packaging to be more of a spool. So this is the old packaging, but this is from Cosmo. And then this is Eleganza number 8 from Suspargo or Wonderfill. And it's essentially a pearl cotton that you can use also in embroidery, but it's also good for Sashiko. This is beeswax. As you can see, mine's gotten quite a good bit of use out of it. Beeswax is nice for coating the thread as you're working with it. I find it helps it stop from splitting a little bit, and it also helps glide through the fabric a little better too. Definitely not a need, but it is really nice to have. And these 2 are thimbles. So I have a leather thimble and a metal ring thimble. You can get a palm thimble made out of metal. You're probably more familiar with those look like. So when you're wearing these thimbles, it will just slide down on your finger here and protect your palm as you're pushing through when you work. And with the ring thimble, most people, I think, and at least for myself, I wear it on my middle finger a little lower down, and also it can help you push through when you're working. The thimbles fall into more of a nice to have for me. I don't necessarily stitch with them all that often. I also have calluses on my fingers from a lot of stitching work, so maybe that's part of it. And last are needles. You can see one main difference with Sashiko needles is they are, for the most part, very long. Now, this is not a Sashiko needle. I have it here to show you the difference in thickness. Sashiko needles are generally quite long and thin, because when you are working, you're doing a running stitch and you're gathering as much fabric on your needle as possible before you pull it through. So a lot of people will like working with long needles. I know I do when I'm working on straight lines, whereas these ones are very small, and I will use a smaller needle when I'm doing curves because a long needle doesn't really afford me the ability to get a lot on my needle when I'm working on a curve, whereas the short ones do. You can also see the difference in eyes here. So I understand these are different lengths, but hopefully you can see how different the eyes are here and how much smaller this one eye is versus the larger. I don't really have a personal preference with the eye size. Obviously, the larger eye is going to be easier for threading. I don't know if there's really any advantage to working with a smaller eye when it comes to Sashiko. If you don't have Sashiko needles, I would work with something like this, which is a long darner. And you can see they are quite similar in how the eye is wider than the barrel of the needle. And that is really important because we want the eye to kind of do the work for us when we're bringing our needle through all those little layers of fabric and having a thicker thread in there. You could also use a larger embroidery needle. The only thing I would advise is that you don't have something that is so thick because we are working through multiple layers of fabric just with the nature of how Sashiko is done. So if you have a very thick needle, it's going to be really difficult to get through those layers of fabric. So that was a quick little tour of the tools and notions that you need for Sashiko. Hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. Happy to help. See you next time.